Here today before Christmas. Going to do wreaths across America for my step-grandfather, United States Air Force. Retired captain, Korean War, died in 2003. His name was Herbert Lee Ballard. And he pretty much raised me as his grandson, even though he was my grandmother's second husband. But I'll always think of him as the only grandfather I ever really knew. And I appreciate him, and I salute him. If I was in uniform, I would be standing tall and at attention right now. I thank you for your service, and I thank you for being in my life. And y'all, we're out here in this cemetery, me and my brother. We're in Mount Moriah Cemetery, and a lot of my family's buried out here. A lot of my ancestors and a lot of Pruitts. This is my great-grandparents. Great-great-grandparents. That's the Wades, Ida and Joe Wade. That's Ma Wade and Paul Wade to me. And they died in 76 and 77. I have vague memories of them. I was, of course, 5 at the time, so that tells you how old when I was born. And my grandmother here, can I get this right? Miss Annie Bob Pruitt. And of course, she passed away in 2011, and we had a nice ceremony for her out here. And my grandfather, James Russell, he died 2 years before I was even born, 69. So I never actually knew him. And stories just from my dad and my uncle. And of course, we got more Pruitts out here. There's from 1966. They both died pretty close together, Charlie and Bessie. You hear these names, you know, in your family, and I'm sure you have family where you have grandparents and whatever that they like to tell stories. But you know, when we're doing a memorial like this for when you're remembering people, Miss Gladys Pruitt, one of the things that's important is not as much about how you remember them or if they were even alive in your life, but that you remember them and you say their name out loud. So we also have, unfortunately, some children who didn't make it, and these are Pruitts as well, if you can really read it. But those are infant gravestones. There's 2 of those, and that's from 1910. My family goes back hundreds of years, back to the Civil War here in this area, Choctaw County. And a lot of them are buried out here, but as said, gone but not forgotten. 1917, born in 1870, only lived to be 47 years old. But we'll never forget them. Theodosia Pruitt died in 1935. A lot of these have been out here a long time. Some of them, these larger stones, now they're easier to read, but we're going to see some in a few minutes that are not as easy to read. James Pruitt died in 1938. He died as he lived, a Christian. That says something. Irving Pruitt died in 1943. And there's a lot of stones here. You can see that have been around here. This is 1888. These are the fairs. Not related, but Let me get that down where you can actually see. But they've been here so long, the headstones have fallen over. I wished I had the ability to lift that heavy thing myself, and I'd put it back up for them. But the next thing I want to show you, look, you see how old this grave? There are a lot of small unmarked stones that are marked with just a number and a religious symbol. And for those of y'all that know what that means, to tell you how long this has been around here. A lot of unmarked graves. They're just a number now in a diary somewhere. Here we go. Getting my lines mixed up. Sarah and A.J. Pruitt died in 1900 and 1921. Never even heard their names mentioned, but yeah, they're obviously legacy members of my family. Now this is where it starts to get into history that's not even really family, but or some of them are, some of them aren't. But this one right here, let me lower this down a little bit for you. This is Major Russell Pruitt of the 15th Mississippi Infantry. How far back would that tell you it goes? 15th Mississippi Infantry. And he was a major, and he's been out here a long time. That goes back in the 1800s. Here's another one you'll enjoy. This is Dudley Pruitt of 1st Company, what is that? 15th Regiment of the Mississippi Infantry. Died in 1898. Died in 1898. Mississippi Infantry. His wife, W.J., son of Dudley, died in 1905, 7 years after his father. I certainly hope I outlive my father by more than 7 years. But back then, in the 1800s and 1905, some of them are getting harder to read. I can't really make out a lot of, I can make out the Pruitt here. We kind of rub some of it off, but some of these stones we don't want to touch, because you see, this one has fallen and fallen apart so long ago that it's just buried in the ground now. Can't read it, can't make it out. It's completely eroded. And then you have a number of stones that are just this. Let me get this stand down really low here. You see that? There's a number, 48, and a cross. And that's it. That's that entire person's legacy. Their number and religious affiliation. My family, once upon a time, everything you see for miles in every direction over my shoulder, kind of land rushed and settled most of this. We owned a lot of it. What do you say, couple of thousand acres at one time? Over 1,000 acres or more. There's not real good records on that. We've still got a good chunk of it that my uncle and aunt now manage and own, and it's been passed down in large chunks. But you know, friends selling to friends, friends giving to friends. I know our great-great-great-grandfather supposedly gave some to a friend of his, and our family's grown up together, the Oswalts. We've grown up together for generations. Anyway, I just wanted to share with y'all, coming out here, doing this. For everybody who's watching live, thank you very much. Everybody who's liked it, thank you very much. And everybody who goes back and watches this, it's important to remember those who came before you. Whether they served in the military, we have people out here from the Civil War and every war since. Like say my grandfather, Burt Ballard, Paul Burt, he served in Korea, and he retired from the Air Force, and then he taught a lot of us how to hunt and how to be craftsmen. He worked with his hands. He taught us to be farmers and live off the land, and how to be humble. He was very intelligent, very humble, and he was a hard worker. And I'll share on Facebook the poem that I wrote for his funeral that my grandmother insisted that I read at his funeral, and I'll share that later. It's my tribute to him. And I just wanted to speak a few of the names of people who've come before us, who made me who I am today. And so I hope you find it to do it yourself. If you have a loved one who has passed, and they served or they meant something special to you, especially this time of year when we're giving thanks for what we have and sharing that with others, share it. Yeah, share it with somebody. I want to thank my brother for helping me put all this stuff together and for coming out here with me today, and thank y'all for watching. See ya.